Hi, happy hump day. We're back. We're back. We've taken a little bit of a break, but back on YouTube, guys. How are you guys doing? How's your week going? I had to mute myself on that side. We always start off that way. I'm so excited to be back this week. There's so much going on. Um, it's been a little quiet, at least here in Atlanta with the Fanny things, but it's April. I hope you guys all had a great Easter. We are now getting into tax season, mid-April, tax days on the 15th. You know what is also happening on the 15th? Trump's case with the whole hush money thing, Stormy Daniels, all of that. It's happening, right? So we're going to see what is happening with this particular case. I can't wait to bring you guys back up to speed because what we're going to do is a few things. One, if you've been living under a rock and you have no idea what this case is about, this episode is going to give you a pretty good primer. All right. So we're just going to give you a high level overview, what this case is about, what is Stormy saying, why is she involved in a case with Trump, what did Michael Cohen do, why does he look sad all the time? He seems to be drooping over time. So we're going to talk a little bit about the droopiness, the drooping. We're going to talk about all of that. Somehow, Kathy Griffin comes up as I was doing some research last night. I don't know how Kathy Griffin comes up, but she does. So you're going to see that. We're going to read the gag order that they put on President Trump regarding this particular case. And I thought that's interesting because here in Atlanta, there's someone else, a prosecutor, the plot thickens, that may need one of those gag orders too. Just saying, right? So we're going to look at that. And then I actually have some of the court documents. But I'm going to start off by saying hello to some of you guys. I also have a really, really exciting thing that I want to share. But let me start off by seeing who we have in the chat. If you guys could hit the like button, that would mean the world to me. Like, do it right now. It's going to take you 2 seconds. If you're watching from the phone, just hit the thumbs up. You're going to want to do it. I'm telling you. I'm not going to lock you out today, but there in the near future, you might get locked out. So shout out to Nurse Janice from the UK. Hi, good to see you, Nurse Janice. She says, looking forward to this. It will be 10 p.m. here in the UK. Cousins across the pond that still watch us during this time. You guys are like soldiers. So Nurse Janice, thank you for all you do. If you are a nurse, thank you for all the people you help. And if you're staying up late to listen to me, that's fantastic. Nurse Janice was first. So good to see you, Nurse Janice. Shout out to E. Capone, who's in the building. Hi, Courtney. Courtney says, love you, my beautiful, intelligent, and noble Pantene. Yes. You guys love, if you guys have been using Pantene, what flavors or what scent of Pantene have you been using these days? Hi, Diane. She says, hey, AV, I still have to order that. That was cute t-shirt. Okay, I can't wait. So now I'm just going to share the exciting news. You guys know it's April. There's a lot of men that watch me, right? And there are a lot of women that watch me. Now, May, there's an interesting holiday that comes up, right? It's Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming. So here we are on April 3rd, and I had an idea, right? There's this company that reached out to me. Their name is Chalkboard Candle. Do you know what they did, Diane? They offered to make That Was Cute candles. And these are amazing, right? So 2 things. I'm going to take this down for 2 seconds, Diane. Few things, right? I wanted to test the candle out, right? And, this scent, it's called pipe tobacco. One of my most favorite people in the world, their favorite candle scent is this type of scent. It's an all-natural coconut wax candle, but I don't like to push products on my channel unless it's something that's really important. I bring this up for Mother's Day because Chalkboard Candle is an amazing company. It's a small company in Minnesota. And do you know what they do? Their proceeds actually go back to teachers, hence the name Chalkboard Candle. So every single time you make a purchase on their website, you're actually supporting teachers. So I thought that was so cool. And I was really excited to work with these guys. So we're going to go ahead and light this. But here's the thing. Not only does it say that was cute, look at it. And it's like nice, it's ceramic. It's not like BS glass. Like this is actually pretty good quality, guys. And I've been like, this has been stuck at the place where I get my mail forever. And I got it today and I was so pumped. So we have the That Was Cute candle, right? Like literally we're branding out here. But I bring this up to say, you know, Mother's Day is coming. This is a great way for you to support the women in your lives, your moms, your grandmothers, all sorts of people. Even if it's teachers, right? If you just want some candles around your house, like a lot of us use candles all the time. I cannot tell you guys not millions, the thousands of dollars I've spent at Yankee Candle, at Target, at, dare I say, sometimes when I feel a little bit bougie, at, what is it called? Oh my goodness, I can't think of it right now. They're like these $70 candles that are super bougie. Kevin Samuels, love them. And it's like they were $70 candles, diptyque, right? But I'm looking at this and I'm like, I think I'm in love. So here's the thing. There's a promo code. If you don't want it to say That Was Cute and you just want to support teachers and buy the women in your lives some Mother's Day gifts, you can do that now. There's a code where you get 15% off site-wide, okay? Guess what the code is? It's AV7, okay? I'm saving you some money and I'm also helping you prepare for Mother's Day. Wasn't that cute? I know you guys love my geeky side, but listen, if you're interested, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the banner so you know you can save 15% site-wide on whatever you want. So if you don't like the pipe tobacco smell, maybe you want some lilac, maybe you want some lavender, something different, go ahead, go crazy. That code is open and available for all of you guys to use. And again, because I know men, you guys wait to the very last minute to get Mother's Day gifts. I'm helping you out right now. You're welcome. If you want to learn more about Chalkboard Candle, the link is in the description box below. Okay, look at that. That was like the first ad read on my channel. I think I did good. You guys think I did a good job? Put a 1 in the chat if you think I did a good job. Anywho, let's see who else we have in the building. Shout out to Stephanie who's here. JJ says, hit that damn like button. Correct. Let me get a like. Can I get a like? Connie D says, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Adrian. Bust a Move Perkins in here. Eden Blackman is here. He says, namaste. Good to see you, Eden. He was actually one of the first people I pulled up recently, so it's good to see you back, Eden. Shout out to Tyree, who says, happy Wednesday. All right, it looks like we've got a bunch of people in the building. It's good to see you guys. All right, let's get into today's content. All right. And it's going to start with really understanding who Stormy Daniels is. Okay. So in 2016, we know that Trump was running for office, right? He was running for office in 2020 as well. And we know that he's running for president right now as well. Okay. Now, in the 2016 election, he had someone that was employed for him, whose name was Michael Cohen, who was an attorney, right? They're calling this the hush money case because Stormy Daniels, had some dealings with President Trump, allegedly. And Michael Cohen, who worked for President Trump, made a payment to her. That's where we're getting this hush money allegation from. There was some payment made to this woman. So the first thing that I want to do naturally is when you have all these players on the board, the first thing you want to do is see what everybody's doing. We know where Trump is. We know he's running for president right now. We know Truth Social is up and doing its thing. We also know that there's 4 pending lawsuits right now. And this is probably, I would call this lawsuit number 3, right? Because you've got the Georgia election case. You've got the whole Letitia James thing and the properties and the whole real estate debacle from last week that we talked about. And we have a few more, right? Hang on, let me just make sure I'm getting them. There's a classified documents case too. That one has a set trial date, but we are not at trial yet. We're just going to focus on this one because the trial date is in like a week and a half. Okay. So I'm going to bring you guys up to speed on this one. So you've got Trump, you've got Stormy, you've got Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen actually did some time in jail. And, we're going to unravel all of that right now. We're going to unpack the whole story. First thing I wanted to do is check out Stormy Daniels because she's been busy. She's been very busy. Let me X this and screen share so we could see what Stormy has been up to. What is this corn star? What has she been up to? Now, this is her Instagram account. So you can see there's a few things that, number one, you guys know, not only do I have a legal background, I also have a public relations and PR background. I really geek out over social media presences, social media profiles, things of the like, right? I think it could be really fascinating for us to peel back some layers of the onion when you pay attention to this stuff. So we know that this case is starting on April 15th. So what is Stormy's latest post? Look at this. It says, New Orleans, I'm coming home. Join me today, April 3rd, 7 p.m. for the private screening of my documentary, followed by Q&A, photos, giveaways, and more. Do you see this here? You see this image in black and white? Stormy is launching a documentary today. And what's the title of the documentary? Being outspoken is not a crime. Let me repeat it for the cheap seats in the back. Being outspoken is not a crime. So her documentary is coming out today, the 3rd, 12 days before this trial starts. I thought that was really interesting. So at first I was like, oh, okay. So as I'm pulling the court documents and checking out her social, that's the first thing I noticed. Then I saw this. So this is Stormy in the middle. And, I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure who this gentleman on the left is. But I'm looking at the person on the right-hand side. That is one, Kathy Griffin, an American comedian. And if you know the history behind Kathy Griffin and Donald Trump, you know that Kathy Griffin was canceled. You guys are going to love this. I went down the rabbit hole. Kathy Griffin was actually canceled a few years back because she, there's a lot of people that are critics of Trump. Totally fine. Be a critic. If you're a comedian, obviously you're going to add some extra flair in that. Kathy was canceled because she had a picture posted online of what appeared to be a body part of one Donald J. Trump, like a fictitious body part, but it was a very gruesome photo. Because of YouTube guidelines, I cannot show it to you guys. But if you're curious and you have some spare time and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm telling you, trigger warning, if you Google it, you will see the image. She got canceled. The entire internet came after her for what she said and did because at the time, President Trump was in office. It got so bad. She used to live next door to Kim Kardashian, West and the West family and all the kids. Like she lived right next to Kanye and Kim at the time. And she got canceled for that. Secret Service was looking into her because at the time it was a sitting president. Okay. Now, here is why this comes to mind before we jump into these legal documents. Because I'm like, okay, Stormy's got a documentary that's launching before we're going to trial. Speaking out is not a crime. Stormy's now also got a photo, and this photo was taken a week ago with Kathy Griffin. Interesting, right? Here's why the plot thickens just a tad bit. Kathy Griffin became on my radar before I became a YouTuber. She's been a comedian forever. But one of the things that is interesting about Kathy is she's been very outspoken politically. But I remember, before I became a content creator, I used to watch a lot of YouTube, but I'm a girl. So I used to watch like makeup reviews and things of the like. So I will say, like, after she got canceled in 2017, 2018, I started seeing her do a lot of collaborations with like younger YouTubers. And I'm going to show you an example of that. An example of that is when she collaborated with two of the largest content creators on YouTube, right? One, Jeffree Star, and one, Shane Dawson. Now, I know my audience skews a little bit older, so I'm going to walk you guys through it, who these people are, why it even matters. So remember, PR-wise, this is why we're paying attention to it. So there was two collaborations. Let's go to one of them. And I hope Jeffree Star does not come for me. This is when I saw Kathy Griffin on the internet after the cancellation. Jeffree Star at the time has, even now, he had millions of subscribers. I think right now he has 15 million subscribers. This is purely a makeup video, right? That's the thumbnail. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
Please.
I'm just going to put it on mute here because, again, they've worked hard on this, but it's a makeup review where, Jeffree is actually using some of his products, doing her makeup. I was like, okay, collaboration, no problem. Jeffree Star is super successful, has taken this content creation thing to a whole new level. But I just remember seeing this, and I think, at this point, it was 5 years ago, interesting stuff, right? And I'm like, why how do these two people, how do their worlds collide, right? Because I think she had gone through, telling her story. She was in the media talking about, I think she went through some type of sickness. I don't know if she beat cancer or something, but she did go through some things health-wise. And, in addition to the Trump thing, she was on this media campaign. Now, the other interesting thing is Jeffree has 18 or 15 million. The other thing, look at this. There she is 5 years ago, 5 million views on this video. Kathy Griffin in the middle, James Charles. They're not talking right now. What I do want to show you guys is this one. Shane Dawson, 22 million views on this one video, a collaboration he did with Kathy Griffin. I'm like, why is she collaborating with these content creators? Notice it was all around the same time 5 years ago. And really, in this longer one, and shout out to Shane too, check out that video if you have some time. It's about 47 minutes. It's documentary style. And he interviewed her. He asked her a lot of questions, things of the like. Now, Kathy Griffin also has her own YouTube channel. So if we were to just take this out, just type in Kathy Griffin, you will see that Kathy Griffin indeed has her own YouTube channel, right? And here's the thing. Kathy only has 127,000 subscribers. So you're like, okay, you just collaborated with these young people. They got millions of views on those videos. It just didn't really fit. You're talking to a makeup guru. The documentary thing, maybe I get, it's 22 million views. But you're also like a famous comedian. So I say all that to say this. I promise I'm going to land the plane, guys. The thing is with Kathy, she was on a PR stint to rehabilitate how she was looking in popular media post the Trump thing. Why does all of that matter? Well, we just came from Stormy's page to see what Stormy's been up to. It's been a few years. All of this allegedly took place in 2017, right? All of this took place back then. But the other thing too that you have to consider is, what was Stormy up to? She's taking pictures with Kathy Griffin a week ago. Now she has this documentary coming out, and we're going to trial next week. Okay. What is this whole thing about? It's about one website. Stormy was going to go to the nationalenquirer.com to share her experiences with Donald Trump. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the National Enquirer. I don't know if you go to the grocery store and you see the tabloids and all those things. And if you've ever picked up a National Enquirer like publication and you read the shenanigans that are in there, it's not the most reputable news source. So if we were to just go to the National Enquirer now and see what type of stuff they write about, you know, this is the front page on the National Enquirer. You know, sometimes they have front page Sasquatch. Let's look at their top 4 or 5 articles, and then we'll jump into legal docs. Article 1, the stigma preventing celebrities from seeking help. Okay, it's a little strange. Monaco and AMP Monaco, risk versus reward. I did not like this headline. Toby Keith's cancer hell. Leave Toby Keith alone. Leave him alone. So you have that. Rise of the machines. Things get real with J-Lo and Ryan Seacrest. Mean Girl Amanda, her Hooters horror. This is the type of stuff that they write about. These are their headlines. No harmony for NCIS Gary Cole. Like, James Caan looking for gal he can't refuse. All right. I mean, do you guys get the picture? Do you get what I'm putting down here? This is the type of stuff that these people put out, right? Stormy wanted to take the information that she had about Donald Trump and go to the National Enquirer and put a piece out on it. They were going to pay her to do that, right? So she wanted the money. Michael Cohen goes to her and says, no, don't put this piece out. Trump is running right now. We don't need any negative press or affiliations with you going out there. You know, I say allegedly because, guys, like I like to look at the legal docs and see what was alleged, what was responded to, what is true and what is not, what can be proven by a jury, because this is going to be a pretty high profile case, right? This one's actually making it to trial. We will have a trial in a few days, right? So, background. You have Stormy, you have Kathy Griffin, you have all of those things. I want to take you to one gag order first because it's interesting, because this is a gag order on a president, right? So much for freedom of speech. Like, a court can stop you from speaking. We've had many conversations about one, Fani Willis, and defendants in the Georgia election case wanting to proceed or to pursue something similar that they've done to President Trump, to Fani Willis. Like, hey, please stop speaking publicly about this because you are a prosecutor in this case, right? Your office is prosecuting this case. Here on the Donald Trump thing, I haven't pulled the tweets. I have not gone to Truth Social to see exactly what he said, but Trump has, had some things to say about the judge's daughter, I believe. Let's look at the document together. I'm not even going to make it up, and I don't want to misquote. Let's go here. Is this the one? No, that's the full document. It's the DJT. Here it is. Here we go. So this is the gag order that was issued a few days ago, actually. Let me look at the date of this. Yeah, March 26, 2024. So this came out last week. Let's read this because we're looking at a gag order on a president. I want to see why, what the background is. We go from there. And the reason why a lot of people haven't heard about this is because the other thing that Trump dealt with last week was the Letitia James thing and the bond that needed to be posted. So both of these things were going on last week, and this story kind of got buried a little bit. But let's see what we have. It says, the people of the state of New York against Donald J. Trump. This is Juan Merchan, who is the Associate Justice, the judge in this case. And it reads, Defendant is charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in violation of Penal Law 175.10. These charges arise from allegations that the defendant attempted to conceal an illegal scheme to influence the 2016 presidential election. Specifically, the people claim that the defendant directed an attorney who worked for his company to pay $130,000 to an adult film actress shortly before the election to prevent her from publicizing an alleged sexual encounter with the defendant. And let me just zoom in, guys, because we want this to be easy on the eyes. Okay, here we go. So it is further alleged that the defendant thereafter reimbursed the attorney for the payments through the series of checks and caused business records associated with the payments to be falsified to conceal his criminal conduct. Trial on this matter is scheduled to start on April 15th. So, the first thing that's striking is we see $130,000, which is what this entire trial is about, versus the $179 million bond that was just posted last week. It seems like small potatoes compared to some of the bigger legal battles that that President Trump is fighting. So here's what this order is about. It states, on February 24th, the people filed an instant motion for an order restricting extrajudicial statements by the defendant for the duration of the trial. The restrictions sought are consistent in part with those upheld in the United States Court of Appeals and the DC Circuit. On March 4th, this is what they're saying that Trump did. On March 4th, defendant filed a response in opposition, arguing that his speech may only be restricted by an application of a more strenuous standard than applied by the DC Circuit, and that New York, the state of New York, has failed to meet the standard in this case. What does the judge say? The freedom of speech guaranteed by the First Amendment and the state's interest in their fair admission of justice are implicated by the relief sought. The balancing of those interests must come with the highest scrutiny. So you guys, in con law, we learned this in constitutional law. There's different types of scrutiny that judges need to look at when it comes to restricting people's speech. You have intermediate scrutiny, and you also have strict scrutiny. Because someone of Trump's stature as a former president, you have to use the highest level of scrutiny to restrict his speech. Okay. It says properly applied, the test requires a court to make its own inquiry into the imminence and magnitude of the danger said to flow from the particular utterance, and then to balance the character of the evil, as well as the likelihood, against the need for free and unfettered expression. The court has an obligation to prevent outside influences, including extrajudicial speech, from disturbing the integrity of a trial. With the standards set forth in this landmark case, the court has reviewed a record of prior extrajudicial statements attributed to the defendant, so to Trump, as documented in Exhibits 1 through 16, and the people's motion for an order restricting statements from Trump. Notably, Trump does not deny the utterance of any of those statements or the reported effect that those statements had on the targeted parties. Rather, Trump argues that the presumptive Republican nominee and leading candidate in the 2024 election, he must have unfettered access to the voting public to respond to attacks from political opponents and criticize these public figures. So he's like, okay, well, listen, I'm running for president. If people are going to attack me, I need to have the ability to respond to the attacks, right? It says, see defendant's motion, pages 8 and 9. Yet, these extrajudicial statements went far beyond defending himself against attack by public figures. Indeed, his statements were threatening, inflammatory, Oh, man. And the targets of his statements range from local and federal officials, court and court staff, prosecutors and staff assigned to the cases, and private individuals, including grand jurors, performing their civic duty. So basically, the judge here is saying, Trump is attacking everyone. He's attacking the jurors. He's attacking the people that work at the courthouse. He's attacking everyone. And he shouldn't be able to do that. The consequences of those statements included not only fear on the part of the individual targeted, so people are like they're afraid now because he's attacking them, but also the assignment of increased security resources to investigate the threats and protect the individuals and family members thereof. Such inflammatory extrajudicial statements undoubtedly risk impeding the orderly admission of this court. So Trump says that, continued compliance with existing orders, referencing both, some of the other orders that they've asked him to comply with, that he's done it at the start of these proceedings, and that there is a recent protective order issued on March 3rd with respect to some of the jurors remaining anonymous. It is an effective, less restrictive alternative. So he's just like, hey, I need to be able to respond to people because I'm running for president. But can we come up with a happy medium where maybe I can meet you in the middle? Maybe we could do something that's less restrictive based off of what I can and cannot say. Do you see how this is like a negotiation? We can't get this done in Georgia for Fannie, but we got it done here in New York. He supports this position by noting that he generally refrained from making statements about individuals associated with the instant case, in marked contrast from the significant volume of social media posts and other statements targeting individuals involved in every other court proceeding reflected in New York's submission. The court is unpersuaded. Oh, so he's going to lose this one. It looks like it. Although this court did not issue an order restricting the defendant's speech at the inception of this case, choosing instead to issue an admonition gives the nature and impact of the statements made against the court and a family member thereof, the district attorney, an assistant district attorney, the witness in this case, as well as the nature of the impact of extrajudicial statements made by the defendant in DC. Okay, interesting. Let's keep going. It resulted in the DC Circuit issuing an order restricting his speech. And now, given that the eve of this trial is upon us, it is without question that the imminency of the risk of harm is now paramount. Okay, they cite some cases here, 1966 case that they cite. It says that case holds that the court has the obligation to prevent actual harm to the integrity of the proceedings. When the fairness of the trial is threatened, reversals, look at this language from 1966. And let me scroll over to see. The cure lies in those remedial measures that will prevent the prejudice as its inception. So let's see what else they say here. On the record submitted in keeping up with its mandate, the court need not wait for the realization of further prescribed speech targeting the participants of this trial. So what is the judge saying? Okay, if we're going to trial, we don't want the people that are involved in the trial, the jurors, the court officials, some of the people that are helping out in court day to day. We don't want people that are going to be involved in this case targeted. So what we're saying, defendant Trump, is we need you to not make any statements about this particular case right now while the trial is happening, right? It doesn't, notice that you don't see any language that's like, we're not restricting anything that you say regarding this trial, but to preserve the safety of people. And because it's a national, highly regarded case, we do need to put a rubber stamp on this for now. My thing is if they took a month to get this done in New York, Why can't we get one of these for Fanny? Fanny is everywhere. She spoke again, guys. Shout out to the people that hate when I shout. But like Fanny spoke out again. She went to another like event a few days ago and spoke out again. I didn't have the heart to cover it because it wasn't a surprise. But it's like, you know, this is probably 3 or 4 options, not even options, 3 or 4 instances where Fannie Willis has gone back out there and has made comments about that case. But we're looking at a document right now where we can stop, or at least this judge has issued an order to gag Trump from saying anything about this trial in the interest of safety. This is interesting. The people proposed an additional restriction on speech with respect to prospective and sworn jurors. The restrictions sought are an extension of previously issued protective order regarding juror anonymity, like the jurors being anonymous. Okay. The jurors want to remain anonymous. They don't want their, you know, they don't want to get threatened, that sort of thing. So there's an existing order where the judge already granted that. While the DC Circuit decision addressed only the risks of influencing witnesses and intimidating or harassing other trial participants in accordance with the lower court's ruling, it nevertheless opined that one of the most powerful interests supporting broad prohibitions on trial participation speech is to avoid contamination of the jury pool, to protect the impartiality of the jury once selected, to confine the evidentiary record before the jury to the courtroom, and to prevent intrusion of the jury's deliberations. While a protective order related to keeping the jurors anonymous prevents the dissemination of certain personal information, it is not sufficient to prevent extrajudicial speech targeting jurors and exposing them to an atmosphere of intimidation. The proposed restrictions relating to jurors are narrowly tailored to obtain that result. The uncontested record reflecting Trump's prior statements establishes a risk to the administration of justice consistent with the standard set forth in Landmark, and there exists no less restrictive means to prevent such risk. Wow. Therefore, it is hereby ordered that the New York's motion for a restriction on statements by Trump is granted to the extent that the defendant is directed to refrain from the following. So this order was granted, guys. They are saying 3 things. Number 1, he cannot make or direct others to make public statements about known or reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation in the investigation or in this criminal proceeding. So this first part is just about witnesses in the case. So he can't make any comments about the witnesses that testify, are about to testify, before, during, or after. He can't talk about the witnesses. The second thing, making or directing others to make public statements about counsel in the case other than the DA, members of the court staff, and the DA staff, or 3, family members of counsel or staff members, if those statements are made with the intent to materially interfere with or to cause others to materially interfere with counsel's work on this criminal case, or with the knowledge that such interference is likely to result. So let's break that down a little bit. This second one is about people that work for the courthouse. They're like, don't talk about any of the DA's people. So anybody that reports to the DA, that works in the DA's office, members of the court staff, and the district attorney's staff, or family members of any counsel or staff member. And I think this has to do with the daughter. This is somebody's daughter that, you know, they thought, not even thought, they mentioned that Trump may have attacked one of the daughters of someone that's involved with the case. So I think that's what this is in response to, but just kind of breaking down that second part for you guys so it's not in legalese. And then this last one, number 3, making or directing others to make public statements about any prospective juror or juror in this criminal proceeding. The foregoing constitutes a decision and order of the court. So the judge signed this last week, March 26, 2024. Juan Merchan. There we go. So that is the gag order. I wanted to start with the latest on this before we go into how it is explained. And I'm going to come to you guys in the chat. We're going to just read 2 quick supers. Shout out to Audrey, who sends $4.99. Thank you so much, Audrey. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for always supporting me, whether I'm here or on the lead attorney side. It's always great to see you, Audrey. Thank you so much. Shout out to Question Everything, who sends $2.60. It says a few non-ninja dollars. Thank you. I'll take it. Thank you so much. But what do you guys think? We are now looking at a president, and this judge signed an order saying you cannot talk about witnesses. You can't talk about anybody involved in the case, any court officers. You can't talk about the DA. You can't talk about me. You can't talk about our family members. What is that? Do you guys think it's fair that New York is able to get a gag order on a president? Put a 1 in the chat if you think it's fair. Put a 2 in the chat if you disagree and you're like, but we can't get a gag order for Fanny. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, why can't we get Fanny to stop talking, but we can get a president to stop talking about something? We can restrict what he says publicly. It's interesting. It's interesting. I am seeing a sea of 2s. I'm seeing some 2s. Untamed Chaos says 1. We are seeing some 2s here. Hi, Lady Di. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're seeing a few 2s. So it's really interesting to see how, if you compare some of these legal battles and what we're asking for in other states and how other states handle things. It's crazy. That being said, let's look at the actual case itself, because there are 34 counts in New York. And, shout out to the New York Times. They have something on their site right now. It's like all Trump's cases. It's like it's a tracker. They have a tracker for all of the cases, the 4 separate criminal cases, right? So there's a federal January 6th case. They have a tracker to show you where it is in the process. They've got what we're looking at down here in Atlanta and Fulton County in Georgia, right? The election case in Georgia. Charges are filed. No trial date has been set yet. You have this classified documents case. That's something a little bit different. And then this is where we are right now. This is, so the classified documents, apparently there's an allegation that Trump left the White House and bought documents with him after he left the White House to Mar-a-Lago. That's what that 3rd case is about. Then you have this Manhattan hush money case. Okay, that's what we're focusing on today. So the judge scheduled the date originally for March 25th, which was last week. But we're going to the 15th. So number 1, the New York Times needs to update this. So what is this about? It's related to payments to cover up a scandal during the 2016 presidential election campaign. Mr. Trump was charged in April with 34 counts of falsifying Trump Organization business records related to reimbursing Michael Cohen, his lawyer and fixer, for payments made to Stormy Daniels, an adult film actress. The judge scheduled the trial date. And again, I just gave you guys that correction. So that's what we're looking at. And it's over $130,000. Small potatoes compared to the bond that was just placed last week. Really small potatoes. But why don't we now look at the document itself? What are the 34 counts? What did Michael Avenatti do? Because apparently he's in jail right now, and he used to be Stormy's lawyer. So you might see that name thrown around. Michael Cohen reimbursed. He paid Stormy himself, right? And he was reimbursed from the Trump Organization. So that's also another thing, right? Here is the people, the state of New York v. Donald Trump. And this is the original document. And look at the date. This was filed on Valentine's Day of 2017. This was filed when Trump was in office. And this is a grand jury indictment. You guys know, Lead, and I tell you all the time, you can indict a ham sandwich. Ham sandwich. Okay. You could totally indict a ham sandwich. It's so easy to get an indictment. It's really easy to get a grand jury to indict someone for a crime. So in a way, it's not surprising that we see this. But here we go. It says, by this indictment accuses Trump of the crime of falsifying business records in the first degree in violation of Penal Law 175-10 and committed as follows. Trump, in the county of New York and elsewhere, on or about February 14, 2017, with the intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime and aid and conceal the commission thereof, made and caused a false entry in the business records of an enterprise, to wit, an invoice from Michael Cohen dated February 14, 2017, marked as a record of the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization. All right? Here's a second count. The grand jury also said by this indictment, further accuses the defendant of falsifying business records in the first degree. Same thing. He had the intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime, right? But in this, notice that they changed the language here. It's a detailed general ledger for the revocable trust, bearing a voucher number and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization. So I'm not going to go through all of that because you see how this started with falsifying business records. There's 34 counts in here, 34. So they're going to now start listing out all of the business records that are allegedly falsified. Do you see this? Like they write it out. There's a detailed ledger bearing a voucher with this number, maintained by the Trump Organization. Same thing. Now they're looking at a check. Count fourth count. They're looking at a check 138, maintained by the Trump Organization. Fifth count. There's an invoice from Michael Cohen dated on February 2 days later on the 16th and was transmitted by the Trump Organization. So they're literally looking at every single piece of paper, where it's gone, how it was maintained. This next one is an entry in the general ledger. Different number, 846907. Seventh count, same thing. There's a check and a check stub, dated a day later, check number 147. All right. Then we have something else. We have another invoice from Michael Cohen on April 13th. So there's a lot of these documents that they want to waste taxpayer resources on and accuse a president of a crime, falsifying business records. All right. Here's another check 2740. They want to see where that check went to. Look, another invoice from Michael Cohen in May. He really wanted to get paid, huh? 12 count. Same thing. There's another entry in a general ledger. We are getting so granular. You guys know when you maintain bank accounts and things. Back in the day, people used to have check registers where you would write, if you would send out a check and you had to, at the end of the month, like make sure all your checks got cash and it left your bank account, because now we all have online banking and it's so easy. But back in the day, people used to have check registers. So you would look at your check register and you're like, okay, check 207. Did I pay Comcast? Did they take their money? Did it come out? Oh, okay, it came out. Let me check that off, right? Like it used to be very, very manual. What we are looking at here is almost something very similar, where there's a general ledger, almost like a check register for the Trump Revocable Trust. So they are literally combing through all of these documents to see where every single check came from, if it was cashed, every invoice that came from Michael Cohen, all of those things. Look, there's another invoice from Michael Cohen. It looks like Michael billed him every single month. Right? Look, there's more here. There's another entry for the general ledger, and we're only on 16. Look, there's another check. 17, same thing. Michael Cohen invoice. So what you're seeing is an entry. They counted each one. You're seeing an entry on the general ledger, then you're seeing an invoice, and then you're seeing a cash check. That's what this 29-page document is about. That's what this entire case is about. It is looking at transactions. This case is about think about it as an example. It's about a check register. Insane. I mean, you should keep records of these things, but how? Notice that they have not told you these are all of the counts. You can get indicted by a ham sandwich. We have not seen how these entries, these invoices, how is it falsifying business records? Tell us. Tell us. Want to see that? We're on 29, 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, and 34. Same thing. Check and check stub dated December 5th, 2017. Alvin Bragg, DA, district attorney that bought this case up. Right? Okay. This is the actual indictment of falsifying the records. So we have that. Now let's get to the statement of facts. But before we do that, let me stop for a second and just take a quick super break. Shout out to Rodney Woods, the second. Listen, he's a second. He's not a junior. He's not a senior. He's a second. That is tradition. That is heritage. Rodney, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Super nice of you and thoughtful of you. He's one of my longest supporters. So it's really good to see you here today, brother. I hope you're doing well and having an excellent week. Thank you so much again, Rodney. Now, let's go back to this document. So now they're going to tell us how. Whenever you see something that's like a statement of facts, this is where you kind of recount the story. So let's see what the prosecution side is saying here. They're saying defendant Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public in 2016. From 2015 to 2017, the defendant orchestrated a scheme with others to influence the presidential election by identifying and purchasing negative information about him to suppress its publication and benefit Trump's electoral prospects. In order to execute the unlawful scheme, the participants violated election laws and made false entries of business records of various entities in New York. So that's what they're saying that they did. The participants also took steps that miscategorized, for tax purposes, the true nature of payments made in furtherance of the scheme. Okay, one component of the scheme was that, at Trump's request, a lawyer who worked for the Trump Organization as special counsel, and who they're talking about here, they're talking about Michael Cohen right here. Throughout this document, you're going to see something that says lawyer A. That is Cohen. Cohen is lawyer A, right? He covertly paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels shortly before the election to prevent her from publicizing a sexual encounter with Trump. Cohen made the $130,000 payment through a shell corporation he set up and funded at a bank in Manhattan. This payment was illegal. Michael Cohen has since pled guilty to making an illegal campaign contribution and served his time in prison. Further, the false entries were made in New York business records to effectuate this payment, separate and apart from the New York business records used to conceal the payment. So they're saying that this is twofold, right? We know that Michael did it. Michael moved that money around. Michael has pled guilty. Michael went to jail. You know, shout out to the droopy face, the melting face. You know, this has happened, right? And then in addition to the money being moved, they're alleging that there are these false business records. So next, after the election, Trump reimbursed Cohen for the illegal payment through a series of monthly checks. That's why they took us through 34 counts. Notice that it was the same pattern. It was an invoice. It was a check. And then you see an entry from the trust account. First, from the DJT Revocable Trust. So there we go. A trust created under the laws of New York, which held the Trump Organization entity assets for the defendant was elected president, and then the defendant's bank account. Each check was processed by the Trump Organization, and each check was disguised as a payment for legal services rendered in a given month, pursuant to a retainer agreement. See, this is what kind of gets me here. If his title for the Trump Organization was special counsel, he was doing legal work for them, right? The fact that they use this language right here, that the check was disguised for legal services rendered in a given month, I mean, you know, we also just don't know what Michael Cohen told these people, right? If he told them that, it's kind of like hard to, you know, it's hard to contradict. But at the same time, I am so curious about this trial. I want to see how the Trump's legal team is going to fight this. You know, it's going to be interesting because at the same time, you don't know if Michael Cohen was offered a deal. You don't know if what the conversation was like. When people are under pressure, when they are about to go to jail, they can say some things, right, to benefit themselves. But at the same time, the truth is always going to come out. So we will see what happens. The payment records kept and maintained by the Trump Organization were false New York business records. In truth, there is no retainer agreement, and Michael Cohen is not being paid for legal services rendered in 2017. The defendant caused his entity's business records to be falsified to disguise his and others' criminal conduct. So that's the thing. They're trying to make it seem like Michael Cohen did not work for the Trump Organization, and that whole payment for those few months over the, you know, I think it was from like February all the way to December, all of those payments totaling $130,000. The prosecution is trying to paint the picture here that indeed, like, you know, he wasn't on their payroll. He wasn't working for the Trump Organization. He was being paid back the $130,000 in pieces, which if you do that over 10 months, I don't know. Sometimes like the fights, some of these legal fights are they're just really crazy. Looking at the background, the defendant is the beneficial owner of a collection of business entities known by the trade name, the Trump Organization. Trump Organization comprises approximately of 500 separate businesses that, among business activities, own and manage hotels, golf courses, commercial real estate, condos, and other properties. The Trump Organization is headquartered at 725 Fifth Avenue in New York. From approximately June 2015 to November 2016, the defendant was a candidate for the office of the President of the United States. January 20, he became the President of the United States, so he got sworn in. So here's the scheme that they're alleging happened. The catch and kill scheme to suppress negative information. The catch and kill. All right, let's see what they say here. During and in furtherance of his candidacy for president, the defendant and others agreed to identify and suppress negative stories about him. Two parties in this agreement have admitted to committing illegal conduct in connection with the scheme. In August, August of 2018, Michael Cohen pled guilty to 2 federal crimes involving illegal campaign contributions and subsequently served time in prison. In addition, in August of 2018, American Media, Inc., a media company that owned and published magazines and supermarket tabloids including the National Enquirer, and leave Toby Keith alone, guys. Come on, National Enquirer, leave Toby Keith alone. Admitted in a non-prosecution agreement that it made payment to a source of a story to ensure the source did not publicize damaging allegations about the defendant before the presidential election and thereby influence that election. So they start this off with a Trump Tower meeting. So in June of 2015, this is so long ago at this point, guys. We're in 2020. This is like 9 years ago. Oh my God. Oh, 9 years ago, Trump announced his candidacy for president of the United States. Soon after, the defendant met with lawyer A, so Michael Cohen, and the chairman and CEO of the company that owns the National Enquirer at Trump Tower in New York. At the meeting, the National Enquirer CEO agreed to help with the defendant's campaign, saying that he would act as the eyes and ears for the campaign for looking out for negative stories about the defendant and alerting Cohen before the stories were published. The CEO also agreed to publish negative stories about the defendant's competitors for the election. All right, that's the first big allegation here, is that there was a meeting with the CEO, Cohen, and Trump when he was running. Now, suppressing the doorman story. A few months later, on or about October or November 2015, this same CEO learned that a former Trump Tower doorman, aka the doorman, was trying to sell information regarding a child that Trump had allegedly fathered out of wedlock. What? How would a doorman know this? At the National Enquirer CEO's direction, they negotiated and signed an agreement to pay the doorman $30,000 to acquire exclusive rights to the story. The National Enquirer falsely characterized this payment in their books and records, including it in its general ledger. They also purchased the information from the doorman without fully investigating his claims. But the CEO of the National Enquirer directed that the deal take place because of his agreement with Trump and Cohen. So this is kind of on the National Enquirer too. Why would you? Does it not surprise you guys that the National Enquirer is not going to investigate people's claims before they publish something? Like the front page, Sasquatch. You know, like they were just talking about like Ryan Seacrest and J-Lo. And like, what the? Oh my God. This one's giving me a headache, guys. This one is definitely giving me a headache. Okay. When the National Enquirer later concluded that the story was not true, so they had to come out and say it, that the story was not true, the National Enquirer CEO wanted to release the doorman from the agreement. However, Cohen instructed the National Enquirer CEO not to release the doorman until after the election. And the CEO complied with that instruction because of his agreement with Trump and Cohen. All right. So we have the incident with the doorman. Let's now move on to a separate incident that they're talking about. And it says suppressing woman one's account. About 5 months before the election, in or about June 2016, the editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer and the chief content officer of the same company contacted Cohen about a woman who alleged she had a sexual relationship with Trump while he was married. The editor-in-chief updated Cohen regularly about the matter over text message. We might have some text messages, and by telephone. The defendant did not want this information. Trump didn't want this information to become public because he was concerned about the effect it could have on his candidacy. Thereafter, Trump, the CEO, and Cohen had a series of discussions about who should pay off woman one to secure her silence. So, looks like National Enquirer ultimately paid $150,000 to Woman One in exchange for her agreement not to speak out about the relationship, as well as for 2 magazine cover features of Woman One and a series of articles that would be published under her byline. So they made their own separate deal with her. They made a deal for 2 magazine cover features of her and a series of articles that would be published. Do you guys remember how this stream started? What was Stormy doing? She's got a documentary that's dropping today. The screening for it's in New Orleans. So I wouldn't be surprised if Woman One is Stormy. Interesting. AMI falsely categorized this payment in their books and records, including in its general ledger. The National Enquirer CEO agreed to the deal after discussing it with Trump and Cohen, with the understanding that Cohen, Trump, or the Trump organization would reimburse them for that deal. That's a little crazy. That's a strong allegation. In a conversation captured in an audio recording, there's an audio recording, approximately September of 2016 concerning Woman One's account, so Trump and Cohen discuss how to obtain the rights to the woman's account from the National Enquirer and how to reimburse the National Enquirer for its payment. If there's a recording, that's crazy. If there's a recording of that conversation, like how did they get the rights to that story? That's a little nuts. Cohen told Trump he would open up a company for the transfer of Stormy's account and other information, and stated that he had spoken to the chief financial officer for the Trump organization about how to set the whole thing up. Trump asked, so what we got to do is pay for this? $150? And suggesting paying by cash. When Cohen disagreed, Trump then mentioned payment by check. After the conversation, Michael Cohen created a shell company called Resolution Consultants, LLC, on or about September 30th, 2016. Less than 2 months before the election, on or about September 30th, 2016. I cannot talk today. Sorry, guys. The AMI CEO signed an agreement in which AMI agreed to transfer its rights to Woman One's account to Michael Cohen's shell company for $125,000. However, after the assignment agreement was signed, but before the reimbursement took place, the AMI CEO consulted with AMI's general counsel and then told Cohen that the deal to transfer the rights to Cohen's shell company was off. Okay, like the National Enquirer has some pretty strange business practices. Number one, you're going off with Stormy, who could be Woman One, and you're making your separate deals with her. You're also working with the Trump organization to allegedly hide the story, but they're also trying to figure out who owns the rights to the story. And then the shady part about it is they go back and they're like, oh, well, we need to talk to our general counsel. So the CEO is making these deals. And now he's like going to the top lawyer at his company. And that lawyer is probably like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you going and scheduling all these deals and doing all that stuff? Why? Right? So that lawyer's like, hey, it's not in the best interest of the organization for these deals to continue. So they say the deal is off. There is no deal. That is what the prosecution is saying in this indictment document. Okay. And remember, this is just one side of the story. We have not seen the other side of the story, which is the defendant's response. I'm pretty sure that they are going to, deny the allegations of these claims and have some facts to support that. But it's just interesting how we can see how the prosecution is laying this out. And here's, it's all like they're looking at the paper trail, but at the same time, if you have a recording, I would want to hear that. And I think we would want to see how this trial plays out. But let's keep going. So allegedly there's a second woman. So we have woman two's account. On or about 1 month before the election, on or about October 7th, 2016, news broke that Trump had been caught on tape saying to the hosts of Hollywood Access, oh, I just start kissing them. Okay. Yeah. I remember this thing. This is that you grab them by the, there's that comment there. I'm not going to repeat it because you guys know what I'm talking about. The evidence shows that both the defendant and his campaign staff were concerned that the tape would harm his viability as a candidate and reduce his standing with female voters in particular. Shortly after that tape became public, the same editor-in-chief from the National Enquirer contacted the CEO about this other woman who alleged she had an encounter with the defendant while he was married. I don't know what the National Enquirer is doing here. So now you're working with other people with other stories. The CEO told the editor-in-chief to contact Michael Cohen. On or about October 10th, the editor-in-chief connected with Cohen. Okay, the editor-in-chief connected Cohen with woman two's lawyer. He's referred to as lawyer B. Cohen then negotiated a deal with this woman's lawyer to secure her silence and prevent disclosure of the damaging information in the final weeks before the presidential election. Under the deal that lawyer B negotiated, woman two would be paid $130,000 for the rights to her account. The defendant directed Cohen to delay making a payment to woman two as long as possible. He instructed Cohen that if they could delay the payment until after the election, they could avoid paying altogether, because at that point, it would not matter if the story became public. As reflected in emails and text messages between and among Cohen and lawyer B and the editor-in-chief, Cohen attempted to delay making payments as long as possible. See, that's the thing. If you have text messages and emails, I think Cohen was actually feeding them a lot of this information, because the way that this is crafted, it's like you have these records of money being moved. But a lot of this is like, I do see that there's a ton of fault here on the National Enquirer. Like, why are you negotiating all these deals on behalf of the Trump organization? You're doing that from a self-serving standpoint as well, because you want to get paid off of these stories. Anywho, ultimately, with the pressure mounting and the election approaching, the defendant agreed to pay off and directed lawyer A to proceed. So lawyer A, being Cohen, discussed the deal with the defendant and to the CFO. Trump did not want to make the payment himself and asked Cohen to find a way to make the payment. It's just more of the same. I'm going to skip through this, guys, because it's honestly like irritating me a little bit to read. It looks like there are some post-elections communications with that same CEO of the National Enquirer. After Trump won the election and became the president-elect, it looks like they released both the doorman and woman one from their NDAs. Wow. So the National Enquirer, after Trump won, they released both the doorman and what appears to be Stormy from their non-disclosure agreements. Okay, that's interesting. I'm just reading this. The defendant thanked the CEO for handling the stories. Wow. So it says that Trump thanked the CEO. These are all allegations. I want you guys to keep this in mind. In the summer of 2017, the defendant invited the CEO to the White House for a dinner and to thank him for his help during the campaign. So this next section talks exactly about how these business records were falsified, because I've been waiting for this. Like, land the plane. Land the plane. Shortly after being elected president, Trump arranged to reimburse Cohen for the payoff he made on the defendant's behalf. In January, the Trump Organization CFO and Cohen met to discuss how Cohen, why do they keep saying lawyer A? Just write Cohen, would be reimbursed for the money he paid to ensure woman two's silence. He asked to bring a copy of a bank statement for the essential consultant's account showing the payment. All right, so it looks like there's a total repayment amount of $420,000. There's another $50,000 payment as well. They doubled the amount to $360,000 so they can allegedly characterize the payment for income taxes. The CFO added an additional $60,000 for a year-end bonus. All of these amounts okay, so they're telling you how it totals to $420,000. The CFO memorialized these calculations in handwritten notes on the copy of the bank statement. Trump, the CFO, and Cohen then agreed that Cohen would be paid the $420,000 through 12 monthly payments of $35,000 over the course of 2017. Each month, Cohen was to send an invoice, which they laid out through the Trump organization, falsely requesting a payment of $35,000 for legal services rendered in a given month in 2017 for a retainer agreement. At no point did Cohen have a retainer agreement with Trump or the Trump organization. So that's essentially what this is all about. When they're talking about falsifying business records, this is how they're saying it was done. Is the invoice would go, he'd bill them for $35,000 every single month, and those payments are made. That's what those 34 counts at the beginning of this document is about. So it also says that pursuant to a retainer agreement, kindly remit payments for services rendered for the months of January and February 2017. So it shows that all of this was paid and then eventually stopped. So falsely describing it as these were legal expenses. So they're just basically saying like, hey, this is a scheme. You weren't retained by the company. You guys did not have a retainer agreement. This money was to cover up what was given to Stormy and to the doorman and to the other woman, all of those things, right? There's a lot here. I'm getting tired, guys. I'm running out of gas, right? But that's essentially what this entire case is about. And it's giving you a preview and a primer for what we're going to see next week. This was filed by Alvin Bragg. This document was filed on April 4th. So approximately a year ago in 2023. So we are now heading to trial next week for this entire mess. And hopefully it is something that the Trump defense team can fight with their own records and documents. Cohen did do some time for this, so it's going to be interesting. But looking at this holistically from what the prosecution has laid out, you really need to be going after the National Enquirer for shady business practices. What is that? Like they're making deals with people, all types of things. Like it is insane. It is insane. Let me come to you guys in the chat and then we will start to wrap up. Shout out to Audrey, who she says, get some Tylenol. She sends $20. Yeah, I mean, sometimes these legal documents, when you just read what's actually happening, you're like, what? Someone sat down, took some time to put this together to allege that all of this went down. But like you also have to be able to prove it in court, right? So if they have all of these additional exhibits, it would be great to see those. It would be great for a jury to see those and then go from there, right? So sometimes you need Tylenol when you read the initial documents because this is the initial court filing. And people are they're going to file those with bravado. They're going to be like, we have this. These are the allegations. This is what was done. But you're not seeing the defendant side of the story, right? You're not seeing that yet. So thank you so much, Audrey. I will get some Tylenol as soon as we're done here. Shout out to Rance Turner, who says, let's go a vizzle to the seventh pizzle. I love that. I love that, Wrench. I hope you are doing well. Also a content creator, men-centric topics. So check him out, guys. If any of the mods are around, check out Wrench Turner's channel. He is fantastic. And then shout out to Lady Di, who gifted 10 AV to the 7th Power memberships. And shout out to the members. But Lady Di, thank you for doing that. If you guys have received a membership from Lady Di, please say thank you to her. Membership has its privileges. They totally do. I asked my members last night before I was going to cover this. I was just like, hey, I'm going to cover this story tomorrow. Here are some elements that I think are missing, or here's what should I really focus on. I ask you guys for feedback. I take that data super, super seriously, and I treat you like shareholders. You're seeing how this channel is growing. You're seeing how I'm giving back. You're seeing, the business opportunities too, right? That was cute. That was cute. Shout out to Chalkboard Candles again. I talked about them at the beginning. Link in the description box below. But you want to look into this stuff, right? You really want to see, a different level of a podcast, right? You want to hear the information in a different way, not just, what you see on the news. You could go and look up this stuff on your own. But I also just want to make sure that I'm providing you guys with a really, really good experience too. So Lady Di, thank you. For those that are new members, please thank Lady Di for that. And it's going to be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you again, Lady Di. Let me just make sure I'm all caught up here. I have a Cash App from Ellen. Ellen, thank you so much. She sent $10. She says, for the love of the game. Thank you, Ellen. That was really, really sweet of you. I hope you guys have gotten a better understanding of what this Cohen Trump case is about. I wanted to give you a primer before we go to court next week because we've got a few things going on. We have this. There's still the appeal that was filed. I was able to share it with you guys last Friday, the appeal that was filed here on the Georgia case. So that's still brewing. That case is still full steam ahead. Fannie is still all over the place, like still making public statements. But if we can gag Trump on this case, why can't we gag Fannie down here? Just food for thought. Just food for thought. Just saying. But listen, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap up. It's sad because there's so many of you guys showing up now. Sleepy's like, hey, I think I'm late. D. Allen's like, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Stay tuned. Keep your notifications on. I will let you know. I think lead is off this week. But if we see anything that is new on the Georgia election case, we will be on it. And if you are a member, you will know first before we go live. So I will let you guys know. Want to make sure that you stay locked in. Again, huge, huge shout out to Chalkboard Candles. If you're looking for a great Mother's Day gift, take advantage of the discount code. Buy it for your whole family, your friends, all of that. I'm sure you guys will love it. Anywho, I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.